Have you ever been in the scenario where you want to power all of your devices off grid, but you need a battery, you need an inverter, you need all these power leads, fuses, maybe you want to operate field day and you want to operate your radio like the IC7300 that I've got here, whatever radio you've got, an HF radio, you want to use it for backup, emergency situations, PODA, all that sort of thing. What do you use? Well, today I want to show you the EcoFLOW Delta 2. So EcoFLOW have sent me this. This is a power station that has battery built in, it has an inverter, it has all of those things that you'll ever need to power your stuff off grid. And it's surprisingly small, compact, and relatively lightweight. I think that weighs about 12 kilos according to the specs. You get an instruction manual and you also get all of your accessories for plugging in and out for charging. So your leads, you've got your AC charger, and this device will charge apparently to 80% within 50 minutes. It charges a lot quicker than other devices similar to it. You've got a 12 volt out adapter here, or sorry, cigarette lighter to 12 volt jack, which is in the back, and you've also got a DC to DC jack as well. Now it is a 1024 watt hour or a kilowatt hour battery system. It has an 85 amp hour at 12 volts battery in here. You can also bolt on extra storage, so you can have up to 1 to 3 kilowatt hours if you want. I mentioned the fast charging. It also has app control as well, so I'm going to download the app later on and show you the control of this. And it also comes with a 5-year warranty. So let's just power it on and have a look. You've got your input, so that's the input power that's coming into your device. You've got that in watts, and then you've also got your output in watts and how much you're actually taking out of the battery. Here, the hours, I think that is actually a rough estimate of how much time you've got left in the battery. This may change when I charge, I'm not sure, I'll have to have a look. You've also got your USB outputs here, so you've got 4 USB-A's, you've got 2 there, and then you've also got fast charging here. You've got a USB-C at 100 watts, and you've also got another USB-C at 100 watts here, and you simply turn those on and off by pressing those buttons. Turning it around, this is where we've got our extra battery port. I don't have an extra battery, but you can see there that there's quite a hefty connector which we can use to plug in an extra battery. Here at the back there is a solar car input. So, okay, so that's I probably incorrectly said that was an output, but that seems more logical. That's a cigarette lighter input, so you can charge it from the car. There's also the 240 volt charging, and then there's also a overload switch here too, which you can use to reset your outputs. Here's your inverter output, so you've got 4 AC outlets. This will do up to 1800 watts continuous. It will also do, I think, a surge of about 2700 watts. So that's, pretty reasonable. That's going to power a lot of stuff which you might have around the house. You can also anything that you kind of need off grid, and also your amateur radios. So we've got our 12 volt output, and then we've also got the DC jacks here. So they're rated at 3 amps, and I think that the 12 volts out here is rated at 10 amps. So if you want to run something that's a little bit higher wattage or more current than can be delivered out of the 12 volts out here, you're going to have to use an external power supply here on the AC side of things. Now, the only thing that I've noticed about this is that the solar input does use a different connector to the other solar panels that I have. So you're probably going to have to either adapt this cable or try and get hold of this plug to make a cable to fit some of your other solar panels, which you may or may not have. I don't have the EcoFLOW panels. I've only got a couple of other sort of generic panels which have MC4 and other connectors on the front. So how long is this going to run your average transceiver, your average 100 watt transceiver? Well, if we do some quick maths, if it's got an 85 amp hour battery in it at 12 volts, this radio here, different radios are going to vary, but at 100 watts this will draw 20 amps. So you might think, okay, so 20 amps into 85 amp hour battery, that's 4 hours worth. Well, that's still a lot, but remember that we're not transmitting all the time. That's when this is transmitting all the time. And if we're using something like SSB, which uses even less transmit time because we're only sort of transmitting on the peaks and then we're letting go and we're receiving, then it's even less. So I guess the short answer is that it's going to power your radios for a very, very long time. So you can be confident that you'll be able to, you know, if you're doing a PODA activation or you're doing some sort of off-grid thing, maybe in an emergency situation where you need power for quite a sustained period of time, you can get a fair amount out of it powering your transceivers. And of course that's going to vary up and down depending on what output power you're basically running, other devices you might be charging to. And you can also plug in your solar to be able to charge this device so that when you're completely off grid and you don't have any power sources, then you can still continue to have power. And if you run something like an external power supply, then you'll be able to run your higher wattage radios. As I mentioned before, the 12 volts output is only rated at 10 amps, so you can't run a lot of the radios that are going to draw more current than that. You could run, say, a 705 or a smaller radio, maybe a VHF, UHF mobile radio out of those. I don't like the cigarette lighter output. I wish that these devices would have Anderson power poles on them. It would be much better, and if they could offer higher current so that you could just take it straight out of the battery, but they don't. So run it off another power supply. Of course, it's going to be less efficient because you're sort of converting from 12 volts to 240 volts back to 12 volts, but it's still going to last you a long time. Now I've just plugged it into charging, and one thing that I have noticed quickly is that the fans ramped right up and it is reasonably noisy, so you can hear that. I'm not sure if you can hear that in the mic, but the fans have ramped up. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that it's good that it's getting cooling because it's charging at 600 watts input, and I want to make sure that this thing's cool. It's not going to overheat. So I don't think that that's a bad thing, but it's just something to keep in mind that the fans are reasonably loud and I can actually feel the airflow around that. So I'm actually quite happy with that even though it is a bit louder, it's still going to be nice and cool. So here is the app, the EcoFLOW app, and I notice it's got a 4.5 star review on this app. So it's a bit unusual to see such a highly rated app. So I'm going to see how easy the process is to get it linked to this battery. Okay, we're finally in. Oh, look at that. It's discovered the device already. That was real quick. So I had to sign up for an account, but it's found it. Add and accept privacy. Select Wi-Fi. Okay. Oh, no, I can set up later. That's okay. Homepage style. Yeah, let's go that one. Okay, 100% remaining. Cool. So now let's go, and can I turn on, oh look at that, turning USB on and off, turning the 12 volts on and off, turning the AC on and off. I don't have any draw at the moment, but I can see all of that. I can see my charging in if I had that going. I should have had that when I was charging it up. And I've got all of my settings in here. Actually, this is a really nice clean app. I can see why it's got 4.5 stars. And I've connected it to Wi-Fi, and you can see that there's already a firmware update. It's got all of the details about what the firmware is about, so I can go ahead and I can update and upgrade the firmware. And there we go, it's uploading. Very, very easy, very, very smooth.
So I plan to get out and test the EcoFLOW Delta 2 in a low noise environment, but the weather was against me today. So what I did was I did some tests in the shack here, and it was interesting. There was some noise that I found on 80 meters and 40 meters. You'll hear that pulsing. That's about S9 at least pulsing there, that signal. That same signal's there. And that signal's not there that pulsing signal's not there when I've got it plugged in via the mains. Spaced about roughly every 120 kilohertz or so on 80 and 40. It was like a bit of a pulsing, and I think it was also dependent on how much load there was coming out of the AC side of the inverter. The DC side, I plugged in my 705 and listened on the same frequency. I couldn't detect it at all. I also then moved the EcoFLOW further away from the radio. I put it on an extension lead and the level dropped. As you can see, it's still there, but it is attenuated down. It's now down to about an S7, which sort of indicates a good thing if you move it further out. Much the same as a petrol generator. If you move it further out from the radio, then hopefully it will drop the noise level down. But just note that those were the two bands that I did notice that there was some interference on. I don't have the best noise floor level here. It didn't sort of like wipe out the entire band. It was just literally every 120 kilohertz or so on 80 and 40. There was just a couple of spurs there. On 20 meters, I didn't see anything. I tested on 17, 15, 10. I tested on 6 meters as well. Tested on 2 meters and 70 centimeters. I didn't see any interference on any of those bands. It was just purely 80 and 40 that I saw the two pulsing signals on. And apart from that, everything else looked pretty clean. So for portable operation, I think the best way to go about things is if you can space it out. If you're wanting to make sure that you don't have any interference at all. For your everyday charging of stuff, like for instance ham radio related, your laptop, your phone, anything else that you need to run, your coffee machine if it's field day, then I think it's going to run that perfectly fine. But just be aware, again, I've done some limited testing. I'm going to do some more testing in the future in a low noise portable situation and just see what happens. There might be some other things that I can't see below my noise level here at home. If you do want to find out more information about the EcoFLOW 2, then there is some links in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to see more of my portable operations, where I've gone and set up for field days and contesting, then there are some videos over here that you can watch right now.